New York Giants Week 4 reaction. So there were some good and some bad things about this game. The bad news is that the offense has not scored a touchdown in 2 weeks now. First time that's happened since the 90s, I believe, where the Giants have not scored an offensive touchdown in back-to-back weeks. So that's definitely not a good thing. But the positive spin is that the defense played about as well as they possibly could. The Rams came into this game with one of the best offenses in football based on the numbers, and the Giants, for about 50, 55 minutes, whatever it was, until Cooper Kupp had that big touchdown, did about as well as they possibly could. Now, it wasn't a dominant defensive performance, I'll admit that, but they held them in check and did about as well as they possibly could. So that's one positive spin on it. But the other side of the ball, the offense, was not good. It was just not good. I mean, they can't win like this if the offense is putting up single digits per week. They can't put the ball in the end zone. You can't win off field goals in the NFL. It's not going to happen. So that's definitely a disappointing part. We'll dive into both sides of the ball. We'll start with the offense first, as we usually do. So as I mentioned briefly, the Giants have not scored a touchdown since week 2 against the Bears, and that's definitely pretty embarrassing for 2020's NFL, where the rules and everything favors the offense very much. Other teams in the NFL are putting up a crazy amount of points, and then there's us that can't even crack 20 points, which is not good. So Daniel Jones today, we'll go over his stats real quick. He was 23 of 36, 190 yards, no passing touchdowns, an interception, the bad interception. He was sacked 5 times, had 6 rushes for 45 yards on the ground, long of 33, and a 65 quarterback rating. So my overall interpretation of Daniel Jones this game was he still has to be better. I mean, I can make every excuse for the guy and tell you that the offensive line, the first 2 drives especially, was absolutely atrocious. Andrew Thomas has to get called out because he was as bad as anybody those first couple of drives. Cam Fleming gets benched for Matt Parrott at one point. The offensive line was terrible. I'll admit that 100%. Jason Garrett and his play calling doesn't do him much favors either. There was even one play in there where they basically ran like an RPO, but all the receivers were blocking, and Daniel Jones was just there with the ball, not knowing what to do. So he did not. The Giants do him no favors. I've admitted that many times. But at the same time, Daniel Jones has to be better. You can't make that throw on the final drive. Sure, you guys watched it by now. I was watching it live, saying to myself, okay, he's going to run for a first down here. We're good. We know we'll go for the next play. But he decides to force it. Rams defender makes a crazy diving catch for an interception, which is a great play by him. I have to admit that. But it was just, there was no need to risk that. It was just unnecessary. Daniel Jones easily could have ran that ball for a first down, maybe even a touchdown. We'll have to go back and watch, the film review, but that easily could have been a first down. I don't know. There's no reason to throw that ball in that situation and put your team in a position to lose. So I have to call him out for that. The turnovers keep happening, and in a very crucial spot like that, you can't have it. But outside of that, I guess he wasn't terrible. As I said, the Giants weren't doing him any favors. Guys weren't getting open. The offense was just plain and boring as usual, and Jason Garrett does him no favors. But Daniel Jones himself has to be better. I have to admit that, but it's not all his fault, so I do have to admit it. So as I said, last interception, very bad decision. Definitely should have ran for the first down there. The Giants had a lot of time left. There was like maybe 40, 50 seconds left at that point. I don't know if they had a timeout or not. I'm trying to remember. But even if they didn't, it doesn't matter. They still could have obviously spiked the ball in that situation. So there's no excuses. You have to run for the first down there. Put the Giants in a position when you're down 8 to come back and tie the game with a 2-point conversion and a touchdown. So that was unfortunate. So the offensive line, as I mentioned, they had their struggles early, of course. Cam Fleming was benched at one point for Matt Parrott. He went back in the second half. Andrew Thomas looked bad at some points. Nick Gates, I guess, had his problems sometimes, but for the most part, I guess it wasn't too bad in the second half. It seemed like they made some type of adjustments to make the offensive line look better. There were some times in there where Jones was holding on to the ball too long, I'll admit that, but the offensive line has to be better. I think we all know that. So Matt Parrott, he did see some action in quarter number 2. He did look pretty good when he was in there, but they didn't keep him in for long. I figured that would be like a permanent switch, but Cam Fleming came out of halftime, I believe. They made him the starter once again, so Matt Parrott had a short-lived experience in there at right tackle. So the Giants surprisingly actually outrushed the Rams, who were rushing for I think 180 yards per game on the ground coming into this week. They outrushed them 136 to 58. So the Giants do a good job on the ground there. Pretty surprising for a team that could not run the ball for their lives. And we'll look at who had the best game for the Giants on the ground. Wayne Gallman had a big run in there. He had 6 carries for 45 yards. Devonta Freeman showed some signs of life, 11 carries, 33 yards. Dion Lewis had that 1 carry on third down for 10 yards. So it wasn't too bad, honestly, for the running game today. It's definitely respectable as compared to what it's been recently. So you have to like what you see there. The Giants one time of possession in this game, 33-27. It was a game that went by very fast. I just feel like the game was kind of like, it felt like halftime happened in like 20 minutes, honestly. It was really weird, but they controlled the ball a lot in this game. They did what Jason Garrett offenses it does. They basically keep the ball for a long time. They'll get the ball down the field goal range, and the Giants, as usual, don't convert in the red zone. But at least they had possessions where they held on to the ball for a while. So at least they controlled time of possession there, kept their defense off the field, made their lives easier. So how was Jason Garrett's offense? So Jason Garrett has been a talking point for Giants fans recently, and as I mentioned before, there were some moments where things weren't so good. We didn't see too many read options today. I'm trying to remember. I think most of Jones's scrambles were just on design passing plays where he kind of took off himself, but not many read options. There was that play with the RPO where guys were blocking, where he was trying to pass the ball, so that was a bad look. But there's not enough bootlegs. There's not enough sending guys in motion on pre-snap and things like that. And I'm sitting here watching this Niners game. I know they're losing to the Eagles right now, but what Kyle Shanahan does, and we watched them last week, we know what the Niners do, and even watching the Rams offense today, they do so much stuff to confuse a defense and throw them off, and you see a team like the Giants who just run a simple offense that is pretty easy to figure out and doesn't throw any defenders off. So that kind of annoys me, but it seems like maybe things are moving in the right direction with Jason Garrett's offense. We'll have to see as the weeks go on, but they can't go multiple games without scoring a touchdown. That's not good enough. You can't win in today's NFL not putting the ball in the end zone, as I said before, so that has to get better. But I guess overall it wasn't completely awful. It could have been better. At least the offense was somewhat good today. They made it, they made the game come down to the wire. I know it was most of the defense, but at least they gave us a chance. They were in the red zone at the end. And if you take away one bad Daniel Jones decision, maybe the Giants find themselves in overtime this game, but it is what it is. But with that being said, let's get into the defense now. All right, so on to the defense. I mentioned before, they played about as well as they possibly could for about 50 minutes. I expected the Rams to put up at least 25 points in this game, so to hold them to like 17 is a pretty damn good performance, honestly. So they got the Jared Goff a few times. They kept the receivers in check. I mean, I know Cooper Kupp had the big catch, but Robert Woods didn't really do much. The tight end Higbee, I know Everett had the rushing touchdown, but really receiving-wise, they didn't do much. Rushing-wise, guys like Malcolm Brown, Darrell Henderson didn't do much either. So the Giants' defense did a really good job in this game. It was unfortunate they had that miscommunication at the end. I'm not sure what happened exactly. We'll go over it. I think maybe there was a slot corner blitz. I think Julian Love was supposed to pick up Cooper Kupp and man, didn't know what was going on, and then Cooper Kupp's left running wide open for a touchdown. So miscommunication happens there, and stuff happens, but they did hold them to 240 total yards, which is good. The Rams coming into this game were basically averaging a crazy amount of yards per game. The Giants did a good job there, and a lot of guys played really well today. I think guys like Blake Martinez, who continues to impress, especially I think Blake Martinez looks even better based on how bad Alec Ogletree was the past couple of years. So, I mean, that definitely helps him, but he's been great so far, I have to admit. Kyler Fackrell had a sack in there, a couple nice run stops as well, got to the quarterback, so he's doing a good job. Austin Johnson, he had a forced fumble, I believe. He had a sack in there as well. So the former second-round pick, I believe he was, as a backup, basically doing a nice job for his limited snaps. And a guy named Ryan Lewis, didn't even know he played for the team. Ryan Lewis at cornerback, called him up from the practice squad. They started the year with Corey Ballantyne, didn't work. They went with Isaac Yiadom, didn't work. Then they go to this Ryan Lewis guy. Has a good game today. Honestly, Ryan Lewis was pretty damn good. I don't know if he'll continue to do this week after week, but based on what we saw today, very positive showing for him, and we'll see if he can be that cornerback too that the Giants need. Another guy who played well, I think, was Logan Ryan. Who else? Dexter Lawrence played well. I think Leonard Williams played well today. So defensively, a lot of guys did a good job. So I have to give them a shout out for that. We saw a lot of Tay Crowder today, my guy. I was happy to see him. He was this close to an interception. I don't know if it should have counted or not. I mean, one camera angle showed that it didn't hit the ground. The other one from behind it showed that it probably did hit the ground, but they overturned it, so it looked like an interception at first. They called it back, but Tay Crowder, I think, proved to be better than Devontae Downs already. I mean, Devontae Downs had one moment early in the game where he just completely whiffed on a tackle in the flat, and I said to myself, I've seen enough. Can we just get this guy out of here? And the Giants, they did the right thing. They put him on the bench. They played Crowder more, and Crowder almost made an impact pretty heavily on the game with the interception. The run defense was solid, as I said. The Rams running backs didn't do much. The pass defense was good as well. They got to Goff a good amount, I would say. So, I mean, overall, I'm pretty satisfied with what they did defensively today. It's a good thing to build off of, so I was happy with that. But, the Giants defense, while it's not going to be a top 5 defense this year, has definitely proved that they can hang with some of these offenses. And I know they got blown out last week by a Niners squad that was not that good based on the roster they had, but I think a lot of that was the offense not playing well. And I think if the defense, when they start to break down, you kind of have to attribute that to the offense not doing anything, because the Giants defense, as I said, for 50 minutes or so, kept them in this game. But when your offense continues to go 3 and out, field goal, 3 and out, it kind of gets to you after a while, and the defense eventually breaks down. And there was that one miscommunication, and if that doesn't happen, maybe the Giants find a way to win this game. But there's a lot to build off of in this game. I think defensively, things were all right. James Bradbury probably had a good game because Robert Woods did nothing. I didn't really see him targeted much. He had 3 tackles in this game. Trying to see who else did anything here. I think Dalvin Tomlinson had a nice play at one point. He has 1 solo tackle, but it was on a screen play, I believe, where he basically blew the play up himself. I think he also had a pass that was batted down, Dalvin Tomlinson, so he made an impact in this game as well. Lorenzo Carter, pretty quiet today, I'm not going to lie. Darnay Holmes, I think, did a pretty nice job. I mean, Cooper Kupp, who's their main slot receiver, was quiet, but on the touchdown, it wasn't his responsibility, Darnay Holmes, so I can't blame him for that, of course. So I think he had a pretty nice game as well. Defensively, I think everybody did all right. I mean, Lorenzo Carter was the only guy that's really quiet in this game, but outside of that, pretty satisfied. So I think so far Patrick Graham's done a good job, and the Giants, outside of that one bad showing against the Niners where they couldn't really tackle in the second half, whether it was due to effort or just kind of not liking what their offense was doing and when they were worn out. I don't know what it was, but outside of those moments, the defense has been good. And if you think back to week 1, week 2, the run defense was good the first half of those games. They broke down in the second half with Benny Snell week 1. They broke down in the second half with David Montgomery in the fourth quarter against the Bears. So the first half defense has been good for the most part. Even against the Niners last week, they held them to, I don't know what it was, maybe 6 points for the first 28 minutes of that half. And then, of course, they had a touchdown at the end. But the defense has been good this year. It's not been the Achilles heel of this Giants team like we've seen in years past. And someone on Twitter said this is kind of like the 2016 team where the defense is really good, the offense is underperforming. It's not to that level because we're not as good as that team was, but to a lesser extent, it's kind of true because the defense is doing their job. They're doing what they're supposed to do, and it's kind of even better than what we expected, but the offense is so bad that they can't do anything. You have to put up points. I don't care how good your defense is. You can't rely on your defense to put up points for you. The Giants offense has to get better. So Patrick Graham, good job. Jason Garrett, I don't know. You have to do better, honestly. So I don't want to say I miss Pat Shurmur, but man, I mean, Daniel Jones is playing a lot better in that system, so I do have to say that. I don't miss him as a head coach, but I'm just saying putting up points and moving the ball offensively, I do miss Pat Shurmur in that way. But it is what it is. Hopefully they figured things out. It's only week 4. They get the Cowboys next week, who are coming off a pretty bad loss against the Browns today. That was pretty surprising. I figured the Cowboys would win that one by a good amount, but so they'll be a little annoyed. They'll probably come out, put up a lot of points on us. They have a very good offense this year. Dak's been amazing, but the Cowboys defense has not been good this year at all. So this is maybe a get-right game for the Giants offense in week 5. I'm excited for it. This is maybe a time for Jason Garrett to stick it to his former team, give us that 20, maybe 30-point performance on offense, which would be great. Hopefully there's no positive COVID test next week. We'll see who has, I have no idea what's going to happen in week 5 at this point, but hopefully everything works all right and the Giants play next week. But I'll talk to you guys next time. I don't know when the next time we'll talk is. Probably film review. I'm trying to think what's next. Probably film review for the Giants. Hopefully Tuesday or so we'll come out with that. But thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.